All right, music fans, welcome back. Harmless Dave here on the Harmless Dave channel, talking about more Rock and Roll Hall of Fame commentary. Yeah, I just need to get this out of my system and doing what I do in real time for a few real people out here, just like you there and just like me here. Um, so yeah, if you want to support the channel, buy me a coffee, all right? Mm. Yeah, that's a good blend right there. Patreon, YouTube memberships, PJ Rock super chats. Um, I need your help. I'm trying to, you know, do this new channel, and I'm over 4K, so that's pretty good. That happened pretty quick, kind of. But I had 82K, so there's still a channel with 82,600 or so subscribers out there, and I can't really upload to it, not videos anyway. All right. So the definition of rock and roll. I'm going to start there. All right. So I went to Merriam-Webster, right? And I just figured, what the heck? What is the definition of rock and roll? So this is how they define it: popular music, usually played on electronically amplified instruments and characterized by a persistent, heavily accented beat, repetition of simple phrases, and often country, folk, and blues elements. Oh, so they're saying they're actually defining different music genres here. I thought you couldn't do that. I thought you couldn't say stuff like folk and blues and it's rock and roll. It can be anything you want it to be. Um, it's whatever influenced the culture. Hence, that's why you can induct like a Dolly Parton into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame because she influenced the culture. Cyndi Lauper is more culturally relevant than, say, Jim Croce, right? Even though Jim Croce had an amazing string of hits before he was in a plane crash and died. All right. By the way, congratulations again to Joe Cocker, who's dead, and Bad Company. Uh, Two guys are probably going to, I think, be at the induction. That would be Paul and I believe Simon. Um, but those two are really it for me. Honorable mention to Warren Zevon. Zevon didn't get the full induction. Poor Warren, and he's been dead for quite some time. David Letterman has been his biggest advocate, along with Paul Schaefer, who probably pulled a few strings. They probably didn't even have Warren on their radar, but they decided to give him a musical excellence award. But yeah, I don't understand the rest of it. Cyndi Lauper, again, is culturally important, musically, not that important. There were a million singers around her time. I don't million, but I'm just using hyperbole here. There were a lot of singers like her during that time frame, who were very talented, who either were on the radio and didn't shake up the culture like Cyndi did. I don't know. I mean, Cyndi Lauper was kind of like trying to be Madonna when she started. She was supposed to be the fun, wholesome version of Madonna. And as time went on, I think they share pretty much the same value system. So I don't know how that really worked out, except maybe style and fashion was different. Anyway, she doesn't have the catalog. I mean, even though I don't think Mariah Carey should go in there, Mariah Carey has the catalog. Mariah Carey has the pipes too. I mean, a great singer, especially in the early days, and still, I guess, a pretty good singer. So I just, the logic of this doesn't make any sense. But if words mean things, which I don't know if they do anymore, people should be reading this Merriam-Webster definition and saying, hey guys, either you need to change the name of your institution to the whatever we want it to be Hall of Fame or the Music Hall of Fame. I mean, and then I would be arguing that is this really music that they're putting in there? Is it music or is it something else? Um, I don't know. Maybe I'm just being too hyperbolic and I need to just settle down and this isn't really that important. But generally speaking, as a culture deteriorates, which I think the American culture has been going downhill for quite some time, you'll see it in the arts, in the music, and people say, "Look at this picture! Isn't this amazing?" And I'm like, "That's art today." I mean, the things that are called art are really pathetic. I think my favorite uh, paintings are by Monet, probably, and you compare like Monet to uh, this abstract art, which I could take some styrofoam and crush it up and put it on a canvas and then throw some feces all over it, and people would say, "Wow, that's amazing." And that's kind of what they're doing with the Hall of Fame. Where's Billy Idol? I mean, you're saying to me that Cyndi Lauper is more culturally relevant than Billy Idol is? Billy Idol at least had some of that fake Elvis thing going on. I mean, you're not going to ever outdo the king, but he definitely took a few cues from Elvis and some other people, and I think his music was more rock and roll, if you will, than someone like Cyndi Lauper, who is essentially like a pop artist. This is where definitions matter to me. I think people have trouble with genres now, just like they have trouble with genders. They have trouble with genres. It's funny. The words are pretty similar. What genre are you? Well, I'm any genre I want to be. I was listening to a song the other day that had like a heavy metal guitar riff. Then it had all these beats in it. The kind of beats that'll shake license plates on cars, like two cars in front of you. And I'm thinking, yeah, I know, rap and hip hop and metal, they all go together now. And then, of course, you got country. You throw some banjo in there. You put an amplified banjo in way in the background in the mix, and you've got yourself a country song, especially if a guy like, say, Morgan Wallen is your singer, and he's got this cool drawl that he sings with, or he auto-tunes with. I mean, hopefully Morgan's going to get into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame soon because he meets all the criteria. He is culturally important. He throws large objects out of hotel rooms and so forth, so he should go in there. I'm just kidding. I don't know. I think he threw something out of a hotel. Not that it matters, right? Joe Walsh did it too. And the Eagles are in the Hall of Fame. Why? Because the Eagles were a rock band. That's why they got into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Cyndi Lauper gets right in there. Where's Jim Croce? Why isn't he in there? I get it. Like, Jim Croce was this working class hero and rags to riches, hardworking, blue collar, sung songs about working at the car wash. Who wants to hear that? That's populism. That's like America First stuff. Oh, you worked politics into this. All right. How about we do it this way? How about we say people first? Like songs about the working class. It's not a bad thing to sing songs about the working class. Like Bachman Turner Overdrive did it. Oh, they're not in the Hall of Fame either. Do you see a pattern there? Journey kind of did it too, and they had to go in there because they had Neil and Steve. They had to go in, and their songs were just too big. But typically, right? Typically, the stuff that goes in there, it's not all about the people who actually buy the tickets and buy the albums and stuff. It's not about those people. And it's kind of sad. Yeah, people say, well, look at Bruce Springsteen. He's a working man's guy, and he's in there. Yeah, it's because he's got the right political views, and his working class stuff, to me, seems a little shallow. Same with John Mellencamp, right? He originally was in that camp, or he wasn't. Then he got in there, Mellencamp, get that? And now I'm thinking he just is angry at stuff, like more angry than me about lots of things. And he and I are angry about very different things. Um, so there are a few examples of like working class people or advocates of the working class getting into the Hall of Fame. The issue though is politics at that point. Like they're saying one thing and then they're advocating for the oligarchs. You know, that's what they're doing. The real oligarchs, not the Bernie Sanders version of what the oligarchy is, you know, not those people. Um so everything is political. Everything is shrouded in a certain political shading. Um, you know that the Hall of Fame wants to put more women in, so they probably should have put Mariah Carey in there and, you know, not put Joe Cocker in there. That would have been fair, right? But a whole bunch of old rockers, I think Billy Joel was one of them, came out and said, you really need to put Joe Cocker in there. And maybe they listen to Billy. Maybe there needs to be a group of musicians advocating for rock and roll and doing the Merriam-Webster definition of rock and roll and not some other definition. This people are going to start to notice this who aren't political. They're going to kind of say, "Hey, you guys seem to not be really interested in putting great rock and roll in your Hall of Fame, which is called the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame." Now, here's my solution, and it's really not that impressive. But just like I think there should be a parallel economy, like you shop and buy things from people who you agree with, who aren't, trampling on your values and your belief system. And that would go for people who don't agree with me. Like you shop at the places that you want to shop at, and I will shop at the places I want to shop at. And I'll leave you alone and you leave me alone. And we'll live in a parallel economy. And by the way, we'll see which one of those economies succeeds, because one of them is going to be willing to serve anyone who walks in the door for the most part, unless they're, trampling on your religious beliefs or whatever. The other one is going to be discriminating in a real way. They are going to be throwing mud at you as you attempt to buy their stuff. And so you're going to go, you know what, this isn't worth it for me. So I will go shop where people will respect me and like my ideas and views. And that's the way business needs to happen going forward, including the music business, right? You should patronize the people you agree with. This institution has a political agenda. They don't have a music-driven agenda. They have a political agenda. It's clear because of who they put into their hallowed institution. And I say that with air quotes. So you need another institution to come along and say, hey, call it the Real Rock Hall of Fame, or don't even use Hall of Fame. Come up with a different term, but something that actually is honoring rock and roll and not saying things like, well, it's the spirit of rock and roll that matters. No, it's actually rock and roll that matters most. There are bands that put mindless lyrics to their music, right? And many of them are in the Hall of Fame or should be in the Hall of Fame. It doesn't have to stir up some kind of political idea. It just has to be good music and maybe not super duper cheesy lyrics, but you could still have a little bit of cheese in there. The early days of rock and roll, it was mostly really cheesy lyrics, very sentimental lyrics. Some would say corny, right? And goofy, but people were just different. If you go back to the 40s and 50s, people were just different. It was a better time. People were not vulgar for the most part. People were not trying to shock you into listening or watching them. Whereas the current rock and roll ethos is it shocking? Is it Iggy Pop enough for you? It's like, no, I don't want to see that. I don't want that etched in my mind. But uh, to the current generation, or maybe the last two or three, it's all about, does this influence you in a way that pushes the envelope and changes the direction of the culture? It's kind of like a religion. I hate to say it, but a lot of elements in rock and roll, at least the secular rock world, is very similar to a religion. And you have to practice all the tenets of that religion to be noticed by the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Hence, I'm not sure what Billy Idol missed on that list, because I think he checks all the boxes. And he's actually a rock and roll artist. So they're not consistent in their application of their own rules. It's just hard to follow this. And I'm happy that I can discern between really good music and mediocre music or crappy music. A lot of people these days are just being pushed around by the culture and being told what you should like and what you shouldn't like. And that's dangerous. It's groupthink. It's why what happened in 2020 and 2021 was allowed, or it was able to happen, because people just bought in. They just bought in. They trusted people who they should have never trusted. And that's where we are. It's apathy. It's laziness. You go on to a classic rock radio station website, and they're telling you why Mariah Carey should be in the Hall of Fame. And I'm like, do you play Mariah Carey? Isn't this a classic rock station? I see you're playing Led Zeppelin right now. Of course you are. But you're not going to play Mariah Carey next. In fact, most of the nominees you're probably not going to play. So I don't understand why you're advocating for these people who are basically interlopers into a genre they don't belong in. That's the 100% truth. But here we are. And then people go, yeah, I think Mariah Carey would be great in the Hall of Fame. Now, granted, Mariah Carey has a better voice than, say, Cyndi Lauper, and her catalog is far more impressive than Cyndi Lauper, but neither of them should be in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. But if you're going to make a case on, leveling the playing field, doing your DEI stuff or whatever it is you're trying to do, then you put Mariah Carey in before Cyndi. Although Cyndi was there first, Mariah is a little more impressive. She's a pretty good singer, Mariah Carey, right? She used to be. I don't know if she still is, but anyway, folks, those are a few random thoughts on the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame inducement and how that went down. And I think we need another institution to rise from the ashes of mediocrity, to come along and say, you know what? We're going to honor everybody who's already been honored in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. But going forward, we're going to put real, true rock bands into our institution. And we're going to do it in a classy, non-political way. And it's not going to be about, checking off boxes to see who's got the right characteristics. No, it's going to be about the music, the way it used to be, the way everything used to be when it came to music. Now it's all about everything else. It's about social media. It's about if they're in the news a lot, if they cause controversy and they do outrageous things. Are they wearing any clothes? That sort of thing. That's what gets you noticed in today's, at least the pop side of things. But in 10 years, all of this awful pop stuff that we're living through now is probably going to be nominated to be into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Anyway, I hope it doesn't come true, and hence this is why we need another institution. Thanks for watching. I know that was tedious. God bless everyone, and I will see you soon.